Hello, everyone. Welcome to our first session with VirtualQ NAB. We are, again, disappointed that we're not seeing you in person, but we are thrilled to be presenting to you and very happy that you are joining with us. So welcome to our first session, and what we would like to do is move into our first presentation. So today we'll be starting out with options and considerations for effective remote production. We are lucky enough to have Teradici join us for this session. And with Teradici, we have John McVeigh, who is Director of Strategic Alliances. Also, we have Everett Ward, Quantum's own technical marketing engineer who has worked in media and entertainment for over a couple of decades. And myself, Jessica Eiler, I'm a product marketing manager at Quantum. So what we're going to be talking about, as we all know, handling large volumes of content has always had its own challenges. And today, we've all had to rapidly adapt to these new challenges. And I think we're all now accustomed to working remotely. And for the media and entertainment industry, remote production and remote online editing is a top priority for many. And because of the nature of that work, editors and producers still require the ability to access and share the content to do their work. But of course, now it's remote. And this involves the necessity of accessing and working with high-res and high-def content. So that does, add to the complexity of the challenge. So there are a few options, that can be looked at to accommodate this. One is to use existing infrastructure, and this is perhaps the simplest, and using virtual desktop and/or remote desktop technologies such as those provided by Teradici. You could also look at moving everything to the cloud and, moving certain processes and even entire environments to the cloud can be done, but it can also be pretty difficult because the big data still needs to be lifted up to the cloud, which, can be a pretty large effort. And then there's, adjusting workflows, like SneakerNet version. One of our host house customers, for instance, they're asking their colorists to stop by the studios and pick up their work on a shuttle drive and, handle content that way. So, that can introduce problems and just, as you can well imagine, with that type of method, not to mention potential delay to access the content and other issues. The most common approach we're seeing so far is the use of virtual desktop technologies. This really has minimal or no changes to the workflow, and the entire infrastructure is already in place. So that allows users to have the experience of their workstation at their studio from their own home office. So there's no need to panic and move everything to the cloud. They can simply maintain work from their own home office. So with that, let's take a closer look at what this environment looks like. And Everett can talk to this aspect. I'm going to pass it to you, Everett.
So anyway, so looking at this reference architecture that we have here is kind of a generic thing, but it's essentially what you'd see in any of the different types of remote desktop technology that's going to be shared about. So you have your studio facility on the left here, with already architecture in place. You can leverage the workstations that are in place today, the shared storage environment. In our case, we're showing a StorNext high-performance shared storage across multiple workstations. This is all in place today. We have, StorNext direct attached clients. We have ability to have CIFS, SMB, NFS connectivity. And for, like I said, most of the existing customers today, this is what you have in place. On top of that, you'd have some sort of virtual desktop technology encode the pixels, so you have some security across the waves, whether it's over VPN or some other type of encryptions that are in place to secure the image. And on the right hand side, we show essentially what we're talking about is home office or remote sites where you can access the existing storage on-prem. So this is kind of the benefits of doing something like this. Of course, today is that it allows you to use your existing infrastructure that you already have in place, just doing it remotely. So you can use dual GPU monitoring for systems that you have with dual GPUs inside your facilities, or single, or even just a home laptop. So now what we'd like to do, it was a quick 1 minute overview of that, but now I'd like to bring it over to John from Teradici, one of the leading providers of virtual desktop technology in the business today. John, it's all yours. If you'd like to take over.
All right. So I'm going to take us into a little bit further dive from that architecture, take a look at some examples of the requirements that are the driving factors that all of you are probably facing right now as you address work from home requirements. Most of us having to make those transitions as a fairly urgent process. Teradici, no exception there, even though we as a company are a remote technology company. So we'll talk about some of those transition steps. First, a lot of the requirements that we hear from our end customers are at the central factor of what we want to be able to address in any remote scenario, whether we're quickly triaging for having to suddenly have an entire workforce working remote, to a planned transition, and in some cases we're starting to enter into those kinds of phases where we've made some of the emergency decisions, if you will. Now we need to assess what are our sustaining models as we continue to move forward. First and foremost, from an IT perspective, obviously, is security. Teradici is known for our secure architectures. We are peer-to-peer in our remote connectivity design. What that means is that we're not having to transfer packets of data up into a network, a cloud, an environment, and then down to the receiving device. We are also pixel-based versus data or packet-based, which gives us the ability to create even further enhancements to our encryption, so that quite simply, if at any point a transmission is actually intercepted, it's going to be a garble of pixels. It will not be actual usable data. So some very simple descriptions of how some of our technology works. For us, the other factor that we look at, and that's actually our true motivation, if you will, as a company, is artist acceptance, artist experience, the experience of the editors, the experience of the end users, and what they get when they are working from a home office, from a home environment, versus right in front of a high-end workstation that they may have in the studio, in the office. That is the core. I often describe that we start in our technology from that end user experience backwards into what then are we connecting to for the infrastructure. What we want to ensure is that the experience for the end user is the same as if they were sitting right in front of the actual physically loaded machine, as opposed to a remote connection off of an iPad, a Surface tablet, a desktop or laptop at home. The IT infrastructure, as Jessica noted, for a lot of us, the big challenges we had were in some cases only hours, days, for having to suddenly address the challenges of COVID-19 and the challenges of suddenly discovering that we need to be remote now. So how do you leverage IT infrastructure in place rather than suddenly discover you've got a massive migration plan you have to do, which in and of itself, from timing to deployment, is going to take time. And then towards the second factors regarding the end users, the artist tools, making sure that Wacom tablets, if you have users of those types of devices, there's software packages, Avid, Adobe, other software packages, similarly are easily accessible, work the same way as if they were in wherever their original office environment was. So these are the four drivers, if you will, that we always hear from media and entertainment. They are design principles for us as we continually evolve our technology. To describe a little bit more of cloud access software in Teradici. If you're not familiar with Teradici, we've been in business about 20 years. We are the creators of PCOIP technology. So if you've heard about that particular remote protocol, we're the company that originated it. Typical of many companies over the years, we started as a hardware company. So many of you may know us through our OEM partnerships. We have over 25 partners who OEM us into their technology. And a few years back, similar to a lot of hardware companies, we extracted that software layer and also offered it as a cloud-based deployment architecture. What that does is gives us more flexibilities to connect an on-prem architecture, a hybrid architecture, a cloud architecture, a multi-cloud architecture, all with one core management plane that we call Cloud Access Manager, and then Cloud Access Connectors. Basically, think of it as our broker, our way of associating the individual to their individual workstation or virtual machine inside either the data center or in the cloud, in the sub-office, remote office, that we can create pools of these environments. So Teradici Cloud Access Software is our high-performance remote desktop, works with Windows and Linux. The clients run on Windows, Linux, Android, and iOS as technology options. And as Everett and Jessica also noted, we're well established in the industry, that we have a large user base. Here's our examples of customers who use us in day-to-day work. Sometimes the way I simplify it for friends and family is if you've ever seen a major animation picture, a major visual effects movie, you've seen Teradici, that we are part of the way those artists and those editors work collaboratively in order to create the magic that shows up on the big screen. And for those of us at home now on the remote access capabilities for those movies, that you'll see some of the examples with TPN, other accreditation systems that we work very closely in our design principles as well as in our partnerships to continue to drive innovation. Some of the technology innovation supporting multiple 4K monitors, UHD monitors, higher saturation of color in our latest release, examples that have been based on feedback from these various partners as part of our design requirements as well. To provide a quick overview of the architecture itself, that if we start with the home user, so thinking of this chart as helping to give a quick overview of the approach, that the home user connecting through Cloud Access Connector, the box that you see kind of in the center, and then our agents or our hosts would be installed in the standalone computers, so the workstations that they would normally or traditionally be sitting at in the office. Or if you've already moved to virtual workstations, connecting to their virtual workstation, that gives the ability then for that home user through your connection requirements, VPN or not, to be able to come into your environment. Cloud Access Manager is our SaaS-based offering that is, I'll simplify it as identity management tool. So we are able to connect through with Cloud Access Manager to associate that end user with their assigned device. Some of the things that you may see in this architecture also are, in addition to the ability to install on standalone computers, it can also easily work in, as we talked about, those transition phases. That if the first stage is connecting everybody that has physical workstations for remote use, so they get the higher end experience of that workload that may be associated with the GPU, with the performance characteristics of that workstation, that from an IT perspective, these tools also make it very easy for me to eventually migrate that standalone workstation instance into a virtual workstation within my data center. so that benefits from an IT perspective. I'm no longer having to manage a physical box. I can start to now remotely manage if I need to that environment. From an end user's perspective, these transitions can occur seamlessly. Today I log in, I've connected to a standalone computer. Tomorrow I log in, I don't even need to know that my workload has now been moved into a virtual workstation. The process of what I do as the end user has not changed. That's a key for us. Our end users are, again, editors, artists. They are not IT people. We don't want them to have to become IT people just to use the technology. So these are fairly simple deployment examples. We've got a lot of details you'll see in the link below. For work from home is our core web page that we established to help with a lot of different deployment scenarios. You'll see some easy walkthrough guidance on ways that you can address everything from, hey, I just need to get people up and running quickly on standalone computers, to I'm ready now to do a larger scale migration, upgrade those standalone computers, or migrate those standalone computers into a virtual workstation environment, or create a failover model so that if these things occur again, that I can move those individual users into a DR model in my data center, but now in virtual workstations. So multiple ways of taking advantage of our technology to meet business continuity and collaboration requirements. That another use case that we find heavily with especially a large number of studios are a series of sub-studios that also are working on the same project. So these methodologies and using then multiple cloud access connectors, think of each of these as creating a farm, that I can now create one environment that one of my subcontractors, a smaller studio, is using to connect into the environment to be able to work on their assigned sets, but I've isolated them from the rest of the corporate network, the corporate environment. At the same time, it allows broad collaboration on projects from remote access instances. And as I said, we're working from home just like everybody else. I wanted to share a little bit of our own experiences. That Teradici has always been a remote technology. Our core headquarters is in Vancouver, Canada. And typical of all other companies, even though we're remote technology, everybody has traditionally been in the same space. So the challenges for a lot of our users inside the company has been suddenly, just like everybody else, setting up home environments. Having home assistants, as you'll see, that can be involved in the day-to-day activities as well. So wanted to share this because we had to do the exact same thing many other companies did. On a Monday morning, we made the decision, our CEO announced that by the afternoon, all employees would be remote, and still are. So in a matter of hours, we all went home, and we were able to log into our work and our continuity instantly. So with the length of time some of my coworkers were offline was no longer than their commute home. And then setting up their environments, our technology, as you see in some of these pictures, allow our own employees, allow all end users to leverage multiple devices. And that as an IT perspective, you can set access restrictions, access requirements. With our partners from zero clients through to soft client capabilities, that you can make with zero clients the most restrictive environment, the most secure environment. What that means is USBs can be turned off, cut and paste can be turned off, a lot of lockdown capabilities to easy access capabilities, our soft clients enabling more remote capabilities as well. So in conclusion, from Teradici, I think a key thing to help you is teradici.com/remote-work. You'll find a one-stop location for everything from deeper information for how to go do the diagram that I shared with you, through to suggestions, advice, a lot of different settings from simple users to power users to help with everything from bandwidth to GPU and CPU portioning out. So with that, I'm now going to transfer it back over, I believe, to Jessica.
Sounds good. Thanks. So we've had, let's see, a few questions come in. So we had a question come in from Sam, he was wondering where he can download the Teradici software.
If you go to teradici.com, and one of the easy ones is that reference I just had for remote-work, you'll find all of our download options. The downloads that you would want to look for are Cloud Access software. That is our overall package that includes then how to connect to Cloud Access Manager and to download Cloud Access Connector. What you would download and install in your environment would be Cloud Access Connector. Then the agents that would install into the physical workstations or the virtual machines. And then the individual user, or you could send you can install it for them on whatever is their endpoint device, would install our clients for Windows, Linux, Android, or iOS. Okay.
And then the second part of Sam's question is if there is support for Mac OS 10.15.
Yeah, so for Mac OS, our client can be installed on a Mac OS. Otherwise, for Mac remote connection, we have a OEM partner called Amulet Hotkey that provides a connecting device to connect to a Mac OS system. One of the challenges in remotely accessing a Mac is that we do require from Apple licensing the need to do kind of a sidebar device. So one of our partners does make that device available. And again, that partner name is Amulet Hotkey.
Perfect. Thank you, John. I have a question from Shustov, who asks if Teradici has any plans to develop for OS X.
That one I'd have to take offline and check on the status on that. As I said, for remote access, if the question is enabling remote access versus running a client, right now there's more of a licensing restriction than a engineering limitation, unfortunately.
Okay. If there are other questions also by the audience, please feel free to go ahead and submit them through the question capability of the WebEx platform. We've got another question, as long as we have time, by Michael, who's asking if there are any plans to add support for surround audio or asynchronous USB connections for multi-channel audio.
Great question. The best I can say is stay tuned. It is a common request. It is something that we are hearing more and more for remote design. So appreciate the question. It definitely helps us to know there's interest and demand there. I don't have a timeline of at this point that I'd be able to announce any support plans.
Also, there's a question about testing Teradici, if there's a way to test Teradici today.
Yes, you can go to that same website I referenced, and there's a location to request a trial license. Our licenses are readily available for quick POC activities, things along that line. It is full-featured, so it does give you the ability to fully experience and fully test out our software.
And how long does that take, John, to do that install for, let's say, a Windows or a Linux system? How long does that average take?
It's actually very quick to set up. We like being a light and fast application environment. So within a few minutes, the client itself is extremely fast and easy to install. Cloud Access Connector to Cloud Access Manager and setting up the agent connections can be done in less than an hour. In a session, in fact, we did just yesterday that we showed it all live and running in 5 minutes.
If we have another moment, so let's see, do we cover this? Let's see, the max screen resolution, you can transfer 10-bit or 16-bit. I think like we've covered the balance. John, is there anything else that you'd like to add?
No, I appreciate everybody attending. I appreciate the questions. Hope we answered or provided more information for you, answered some initial questions, and welcome you going to the website. And if you have direct questions, I'm always happy to take your emails. You can contact me at jmcvay, JMCVAY, @teradici.com.
Well, thank you very much. We really appreciate your joining us today and sharing more information about Teradici. Everett,
Yes, and I was just going to say, for any of the questions that we didn't get to quite today, we are capturing those questions, and we'll try to get something back to you.
Well, thank you, everybody, and we hope that you are participating and listening into other sessions that we'll be presenting the balance of today and the next 2 days. And if you're interested also in hearing more about Teradici, John will be joining us both tomorrow and Thursday. So, so there will be more. So if you think of other questions, come on back, and we'll be happy to talk with you then.